This episode is sponsored by Phrase Flowers, a Western New York family-run flower farm and floral preservationist. They offer unique and one-of-a-kind pressed flowers in the shapes of buffaloes. Every buffalo is handcrafted, and because they are made with flowers, each one has their own look and personality.
You can get a hold of them on their website at phraseflowers.com. That's flowers.com. Or check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Bring more joy and color into your life at Phrase Flowers.
What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Monday, March 24th, 2025. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host, Phil, episode 345. If you can't tell, Phil's going he's going through some renovation over there. He's closer to the back wall than he normally is, but it's rebuild time and redo time in the Phil household studio area, whole house. What you working with over there?
Yeah, the podcast studio. It is one of the last areas that needs to be painted and renovated a little bit before heading into the kitchen. That is probably the next room after that, which is going to be a bit of a beast. So not really looking forward to that, but focused on the podcast studio now. Got the trim painted. The wife, Ashley, is working hard on all the trim and the painting. She enjoys it, but it's still a lot of work. And we took down the sound foam that I had up on the back wall so I can remove all of the... I used alien tape, and I didn't realize until after I put it all up, you're not supposed to use that on a painted wall, so that's going to be a nightmare to get rid of. That's my job tomorrow when I'm off. But I took all those down, and I was just talking to you now and wondering why it was so echoey in here. I was like, I really didn't remove any furniture. It's all just kind of squished to the middle. Realized with those down, I didn't know how much sound they actually absorbed. I can definitely hear it being a little bit more like hollow and echoey in this room without them. So excited to get them back up in the near future, but could be a few episodes like this while we buy some paint, find some stuff, and make some renovations to the podcast studio.
Been there. Been doing that for the last 4 months. Me and the wife are... My brother is going to be moving in with us to get him out of like our parents' house, kind of living on his own for a bit. He's going to have the whole upstairs to this side. On the other side of this wall, it's kind of like separated because it was a multifamily kind of thing. But
it's too complicated to describe.
Yeah. Phil saw it last weekend. It's very complicated, but the stairs that lead up to his whole area, and he's gonna have the kitchen. It's a long story, but there was carpeting that went up in the whole living room, and then up the stairs, and then on the landing. We took all that out, and the stairs were in crappy shape. The landing was in bad shape, so we've been redoing all the stairs, and we got to like 2 weeks out, and we're like, okay, he lives upstairs. We got to do these stairs because if we start doing the stairs after he moves in, he's either going to be stuck at the top or stuck at the bottom. So we're in a crunch mode because he's moving in the beginning of April. So we're trying to get those done. So we're right there with you, except you can't see all the behind the scenes in my area that you can see over there. But we're going to start diving into it because we got a long show. Hopefully this doesn't go too long. But remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. You can also check out our store on our link tree on our social media sites at the top of the website as well by hitting the shop tab. You can represent the BSC on the go. Some of the merch we kind of gave away on Saturday, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. And look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. Again, we're going to talk about it a little bit more during the sponsor reads, but we took over the Tap That Tap Room. It was a great success. I think a lot of people had some fun. We had a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to more collaborations down the road with them. The next thing on the docket, though, Phil, is something we've been working on, and we really hope that you end up enjoying. Last year around this time, when we did the 3-year anniversary, I said we kind of wanted to branch off into other areas outside of just the podcasting to try something new and fun and like different different ways to experience the life of Phil and PK. And we're kind of working on something now that should be out sometime in April around the NFL draft. And that is the only clue I'm going to drop out there for you. But we're going to hopefully record it. That's another clue, I guess. It's going to be all video. You will have to go to YouTube for it. This is not something that you can get audio only. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. We'll put it out. We'll
Probably
advertise it more. But yeah, it's getting recorded. Hopefully, fingers crossed, weather permitting, the first weekend in April. It should be a fun one. There'll be a couple guest appearances, but the stars of the show are going to be me and Phil. And hopefully, after that's recorded, we'll still be able to record episodes because it could be a little dangerous what we're going to be planning on doing.
Yeah, it's probably not as bad as the weekends after Tough Mudder. You think worse than after Tough Mudder?
Yeah. Painful wise. Not like sore wise, but
right,
painful, yeah.
Right. So hopefully we can at least crawl to our chairs and be able to still record.
You might still be on the edge of your couch, so that might be good. But we're going to dive into it. We're going to try to do better than the last time that the Bandits had a split weekend. So I think the best way to handle this is go game by game rather than some crossover. And I think that might be easier with this one because it was two vastly different games. The first one took place in Banditland on Friday night. They took on Vegas, and we were trying not to be super insulting of Las Vegas on the preview show, but I think we might have been a little bit. But it ended up being kind of how we thought, a little bit closer at the end, but it didn't really matter. 13-10 victory. The score was closer than the actual game was. Kluch had 3. He got right. McKay, Byrne, Bucky, Smith each had 2. Nielsen, who was in the lineup, Martin each with 1. Vince, 36 of 44 saves. Orleman came in the final 436, made 2 of 4. Shots 52-48 in favor of Buffalo. Faceoffs 19-8 in favor of Buffalo. The power play, Buffalo was 2 for 4. Vegas was 2 for 5. It was an 8. I'll get into that in a second. But Buffalo started the game 8-0, an 8-0 run. It was 11-2 at halftime, 12-4 after 3. It was 13-5 with 12:54 to go. That was the last Bandits goal. Las Vegas would finish on a 5-0 run. It was after that first quarter, mostly, the majority of the third, I would say, Buffalo had control of the game, and I think like we've seen earlier in the season, they kind of let the foot off the gas a bit, and we've heard the players say, we've heard Johnny T say it, it's hard to keep that momentum up the entire game, especially in the second half when you're up by 8, 9, 10 goals.
Yeah, the only pushback I have with that, which is just, I guess, small gripe that doesn't really matter because as long as you get the win, that's all that matters in the end. And Johnny said that was kind of one of the things I think either him or the players mentioned post game, like, well, if the win's the most important thing, it doesn't matter what the final score is. And they said that it's like you said, it's tough to keep that going. And even Johnny said he thinks that they kind of stopped running through the middle. They were staying to the perimeter and eating the shot clock a lot more, just kind of letting the game wind down after you have such a big lead, especially 11-2 at half. Right. It's very hard to stay in that kind of game. But at the same time, other teams seem to have no problem doing it. Like we said, the two teams that played Vegas before had 20 and 21. So they have no problem staying focused and remaining, vigilant's not the right word, but just remaining motivated to score and staying in the game and putting up 20 and 21 goals. So I don't understand why the Bandits can't seem to do that. There was a game very early on in the season as well where they blew out to a really quick lead and then just shut it down in the second half, and the other team caught up a little bit. And it's just, again, it doesn't matter in the long run. You got the win. It was an easy victory, but I just don't understand why other teams seem to be able to keep the gas pedal down, and the Bandits seem to just, take it off completely and kind of give up and just throw, kind of just finish the game out and just not really attempt to do too much or score too much more or go to the middle. I know they had a back-to-back games that could have played into it where they just didn't want to risk any injuries, didn't want to risk a very physical end of the game when you have another big game the next day. But it's just a little frustrating, I guess, to see other teams have no problem running a score up on a team, and the Bandits seem to really struggle when they're up with a big lead, finishing that game out and continuing to score a lot of goals.
Yeah, the only thing I'll push back on that is the Bandits have won the last two championships, so they kind of know, okay, why exert more
Right.
steam
Like I
when we
said,
got a
yeah, you get
lot
the win, it
more.
doesn't matter. But
Exactly. So as much as I would have liked them, because I mean they were on pace to score 32 goals in the game, and they finished with 13, so that's a little bit disappointing. But
I mean, two in the second
that
half is just
right.
wild.
As far as like the fan in me, because I was in the bowl in that one, it was like, okay, let's just run it up on them. I was like, they're gonna be hitting the showers early, see a Kells, and then the person that covers the team in me was like, yeah, but okay, they took the foot off. Yeah, it got a little bit closer towards the end, but they knew exactly what they were doing. They paced themselves in the second half. Why exert energy when you got to go on a bus right after this and go to Albany? So I didn't mind it too much. I was hoping that they would get to the 18-19 goal mark just to say, okay, they're able to do it. I still believe they can do it. I think they could have put up 25 goals on this team if they really wanted to and kept playing how they did in the first quarter. But they got to a point, they knew Vegas wasn't going to be able to come back, and they kind of just took the foot off the throttle. And that's the only criticism I have in this entire game. Swanee, when maybe the wave is back being a negative thing, because he mentioned the wave and it was an 8-1 run after that. So maybe listen to the crowd a little bit more when they say no the first time that they don't want to do it. It was very overwhelming. And I was talking to producer Pat next to me. I was like, I know we didn't have anything to do with it, but it seems like once we started pointing it out, it kind of spread like wildfire. I know we had nothing to do with it, but it's
It's
just
fun
funny.
to
But
think we did.
yeah, it's fun to think we did. Kind of like the milestones, like advertising that and all the other stuff. We know we had nothing to do with it, but it's a nice little feeling inside that says, hey, you had everything to do with it. But we'll talk about the offense. The biggest switch, Nielsen was in. Nielsen got his first start. Chase Frazier was on the injury report as questionable. You were in the press conference. You already heard that he had some nicks and bruises, so they held him out of this one. I believe moving forward, and I know we're not trying to do any crossovers, that was probably the same reason they held Nanakoke out of the second one, to give Nielsen the whole weekend. It was kind of giving him, hey, thank you for all the work you've done. This is your reward of getting in there, giving Chase Frazier and Nanakoke a bit of a break. But I think the offense, you saw in the first quarter exactly what we needed to see from them. We went into this game saying, and you asked the question, hey, what do we need to see from this offense? What's a good goal point? And I said, hey, if they score 14, we're good. 13. But again, you took the foot off the throttle. You scored 8 straight to start the quarter. This offense is good. I think the biggest thing to me, without going into in extreme details, because we don't really have to in this one, it was kind of known who was the best team and who was not. It was Kluch getting right. And he was our BSC MVP this weekend for a reason. We said the lefties had to get right. Maybe adding Ian McKay back up there will get Dane Smith right as well. I do think that this was a very big weekend for the offense, but especially a guy like Chris Kluch, who's been kind of gripping his stick a little bit tighter, looking for the back of the net.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the post game that he obviously knew he was going through some struggles, and oftentimes when players that are really good go through struggles, it's just a grind to keep going and knowing at some point you're going to get it figured out. Just keep working hard. And he's mentioned a lot that, especially this year, we know Brandon Robinson. He's the guy who likes opening up lanes, but that also kind of opens up lanes for him where you can do a pick and roll if he's creating a lot of picks for Byrne. And then all of a sudden you roll off one, you find yourself in a great position to score. So it was only a matter of time, but he was a player I was definitely calling out a few times in the articles and things of what's going on with him. He had, I think, about a 4-game run of just not playing very well, at least on the score sheet. Yes, he's still out there creating those lanes for Byrne, and Byrne's still been doing a really good job. So it's not that he's doing nothing by any means, but you knew that he needed to get right game, and this was a game to get the entire offense right, but he was a big part of it. And for him to go out there and get the hat trick, I think was huge. For him to get 5 points was huge. To score 3 on 4 shots is big. So it's not even like he was out there taking 15 shots just to get 3 goals. It was 3 of 4. So I think this was a really big confidence boost for him. And I think it just kind of reiterates that his hard work not only can pay off, but he still has it in him. And I don't think there was any doubt that he did, but you need those results to show at some point to kind of reassert and re-believe in yourself that you do have it still in you and you can score and can put up a big game. And I think as long as he knows that that's still in him, I think that's huge. And speaking of McKay, I was really happy that he asked this, but Dave in the post game asked, what is it like having McKay up there does it change the role that Cloutier has on offense when McKay's up there? And he said, not really, but obviously it's nice to have another player like that up there. And I think the stats that we've seen show that when McKay is on offense, Cloutier also seems to just play better. He has somebody else up there. It's not all on him. Obviously, Byrne, I keep removing him from the equation. He's Josh Byrne. He's going to do what he's going to do. But as far as secondary scoring on the left side, it's not all on him when he has Ian McKay up there taking some of that and just another weapon up there. I think it frees him and opens him up a little bit more. So I think with McKay coming out the front door, you saw the difference it made in Cloutier as well.
Yeah, and everybody got involved, and everybody was producing up there. Nanticoke had 3 assists. You already mentioned it. Cloutier had 5. McKay had 3-point night. Nielsen 1-1 and 2. Byrne 8-point night. Smith 7-point night, and Bucky 2-1 and 3 does what Bucky does. So I do think this was a very good get right by the offense, even with only scoring 13. And hats off to Justin Getty coming in. I loved when everybody was doing the "you suck" chants, and he was just like bobbing with it. His head was going with it. He was orchestrating everything. I love when players interact with fans like that. That doesn't
Agreed.
take away from their attention on the game, but are embracing what's there. They're loving that, the sportsmanship of it. I absolutely loved what he was doing. I was just like, man, he just keeps finding fun ways to do it. And he was like turning around and waving at the crowd. It's fun when fans interact with, or players interact with fans like that. But my only other question with the offense here is, I guess we can kind of tie this into both games real quick because there's not much I can talk about with Nielsen in the second one that we're going to get into in a little bit. But what did you think of Nielsen's 2 games that he played this weekend? I personally like Vegas's a lot more than I liked Albany's. It seemed like he was kind of a lot more quiet in Albany's game, but 4th fastest first career goal in NL history. I liked his confidence. To me, he was more confident than we saw from Clay Scanlon in his first few games. He was getting inside. I mean, he paid the price on the one where he was able to scoop up one right in front of Justin Getty, but I think he's a lot stronger than he looks, especially along the boards, picking up those loose balls. I think he's going to be a very good player if he keeps up on the trajectory he's on right now.
Yeah, everything you mentioned is everything I was going to say about him. The biggest thing that I noticed right away from him was his physicality.
Yep.
And he has no problem mixing it up, throwing his body around.
He got away with one. He got away with one.
Yeah,
that should have been a 5.
Demolished Kirst. And yeah, he definitely, if it wasn't an elbow, it was definitely a shoulder that he threw right to the guy's head. So he definitely got away with that. And I do like Kirst quite a bit. So it was kind of a shame to see him.
He came back.
He did. But outside of that, I mean, even I think it was still the first game where the Vegas goalie, I think it was Getty at that time, went to go check him, and he just stood him up and knocked the goalie right over. Like, he brought way more physicality than I thought I was expecting. Like, yes, you can see guys go for the ball, go hard, but it's different when you go hard and you actually have results from going hard. And he seemed like he was knocking things around. He had no problem, like you said, going in the middle, paid the price, but then went right back to the middle again in the future. So it didn't shy him away from going right back into that situation. And the other big thing to me, like you mentioned, was his confidence. He had no problem shooting. And that is the biggest thing that I liked seeing from him, was that he wasn't scared in an offense like this, which we've talked about a lot. It has so much talent that when a new guy comes in, not only is it hard to kind of fit in because you haven't played with them as much as obviously this offensive group has been together for a very long time, but you also, when there's a Dane Smith on the field, who's one of the greatest in the entire world right now, it's very easy to want to just give him the ball and kind of shy away from shooting, because why are you going to limit a Dane Smith when you're just a rookie in your first game or second game? But I thought he did a really good job finding ways to shoot. He looked good. Like you said, he was taking players on one-on-one, but he just wasn't scared to be out there, wasn't scared to shoot. He looked like he was just very comfortable, and that was great to see. And Johnny mentioned that it was nice to finally tell him that he's in the game. He didn't have to go up to him like he does most weeks and say, hey, you're a healthy scratch this week, or hey, you're on the practice squad. He said it was really exciting going up to him saying, like, hey, you're in the game this week. So that was kind of nice to see. And for him to get his first goal in Bandit land, obviously, when the crowd saw that who it was, who scored, and it was his first goal, they gave him the really nice welcome. I'm sure that feels fantastic. And then in game 2, I think the problem is that he, from what we saw, he seems very Fraser-esque. And I think because Fraser was back in the lineup, I don't think he's as much of a Nanacoke type player. So I don't think he was really out there nearly as much as we saw in that first game. I think he clearly was kind of the one for one replacement of Fraser, and even up in the box, Fraser was the one cheering the loudest out of all the guys that were up in the box when he scored his first goal. But I think in the second game, he's just not that Nanacoke style bruiser. Yes, he's physical, but there's a difference between being physical and setting lanes and taking on 6-7 players, even though that's not even how many are on the field, but it still feels like that's how many Nanacoke are taking on at one time. So I think with Fraser back in, he kind of just faded a little bit. And I think his orange shoes are pretty bright and you can see him out there a lot. And I don't remember seeing him just as much in the second game. I think the first game he was out there quite a bit. Second game, it seemed like they backed him off. And I mean, no offense to him, but Fraser came out firing and looked amazing right away. So you weren't going to, keep him on the bench.
So we'll flip towards the defense and the goaltending. This was a good reminder that Steve Dietrich wasn't behind the bench. He had surgery on Monday, so he wasn't behind the bench for either of these two games. It was Anthony Cosmo, so credit to him to come on the bench and kind of take over that role there. But I think the defense, especially in the first half, I think they also backed off in the second half. But again, we're not going to get into that. But I think it was great work by them to allow just one chance each shift. Like, you weren't getting 2, 3, 4 chances by Las Vegas's offense. I thought Weiss played really, really well on the penalty kill in this one. I thought Justin Martin probably had his best game of his season in this one. He was all over those players, letting an inch. I think he played very well in the Albany game to an extent. But the only negative I really have on this defense is the 5-on-3. Like, Weiss and Priolo somehow just I know it was a great pass. It was a great pass, and it was a great move by Donville. But it's 5-on-3. It's 2-on-1 there. It's unacceptable to let him get right in front of Matt Vince and score on that one. And it's been far too many times this season that when they have the man advantage, they, on the defensive end, and the opponent either has 3 or 4 guys on the field, they let up too much. There's too many opportunities, and we'll talk about it in the Albany game. But I thought they played really, really well against Hannah. I mean, he went 0 for 12 on shooting. They kind of took him completely out of the game. Donville's production kind of came in the second half. Jackson was in the second half as well. The majority of these things came in the second half after everything went through. And to speak to Matt Vince, I mean, 4 saves on the first penalty kill. I thought he was incredible there. 1 was post to post. And I only had 1 of the 10, and I guess 1 of the 8 on him, and it was on the power play. I normally don't blame the goaltenders on the power play, but it was right through the 5-hole. I think even Vince admitted, and looked like he admitted to the players out there, he needed that one. But 1 out of 8 in a blowout game like that, I mean, I think the defense and the goaltending did exactly what they needed to on an inferior opponent. The offense did exactly what they needed to, and they kind of just called game after like the first quarter and just coasted the rest of the way through.
Yeah, really, you kind of just took everything. Not in a bad way. Like you said, this game is 11-2 at half, and that's realistically where the game ended. I mean, there was just the second half you can wipe out. And no, I was complaining about it a little earlier, but it's going to happen in these games. I mean, you're up that far, a championship team like this, you're likely not going to let a team come all the way back from an 11-2, especially a team like this. Somebody else maybe might have the offensive firepower
Right.
to come back, but no offense to Vegas, even though we're really knocking them down again. They just don't have the team to come back against the Bandits when they're down 11-2. So everything just kind of ended at half pretty much, and the team just stopped playing and let the clock run out, especially with a back-to-back weekend. You just kind of want to not relax, but even Johnny said that he was giving a lot of the older guys a little bit more shifts off, like Dawson was getting a few more extra shifts off, Priolo. So, I mean, that affects your defense as a whole because the guys who are normally out there on a lot of these plays started to take shifts off to get breaks for the next game. So everything gets switched up a little bit. But overall, easy win, which it should have been. I think that's the biggest takeaway is that when you're a championship team and the first in the league, if you're playing the last place team, it should look easy, and the Bands made it look easy. That's all you're expecting from this game.
Yeah, just a couple more wrap-ups here. I kind of kept track of Farrell versus Hammer Jackson. Farrell won 9 clean to me, and Jackson won 1, and it was in the fourth. Mickey took the 2 when Farrell was in the box. One he lost, but Wires and Mickey kind of roughed it up, got the cause turnover, and got it back. The other one went right into the corner. Bucky was right there. I mean, when Farrell's not on the field, that's what you want to do, is just muck it up out there. But I did like Farrell's game. I think he had a very big bounce back game in this one, and he was dominating Hammer Jackson. So I think, and it cleanly as well. Like the 9 wins were just clean. And then just to go over the penalties really quick, I think they were all correct. I don't have an issue with any of them. I think the Zach Belter 4-minute one, I think it should have just been a 2. But
I don't know why. That's the only one.
I don't get why it was a 4.
I don't know why I got 4. That
yeah,
didn't
but
make any sense to me.
I actually liked it because it came at a point of a game where it was a blowout at that point. And a guy took a hit on Josh Byrne. It was a clean hit, but I think the penalty sent a message to Vegas like, hey, it's a blowout. It's not going to be that type of game. Like, you do this kind of stuff, it's going to be addressed. So I actually like that one. I think Nick Weiss's one was funny. It was a penalty. It was unsportsmanlike, but he even had the celebration in the next one. But for the most part, I think the cleanup work and the penalties were the right calls. I was just confused why it was a 4 instead of just a 2 for me. I think it should have just been a 2, whatever.
Yeah, it was interesting. The first one, I don't know what you saw from the field because obviously from the box you got a wide view of everything going on, but Vegas immediately went after Farrell right off the opening faceoff and just drove him into the boards and just started fighting him for absolutely no reason. I don't know if they were trying to set a tone early that we're going to be physical and just decided to pick on Farrell. That was just a very weird thing to see off the opening faceoff, that the faceoff guy just, like, Farrell was literally jogging to the bench. He just followed him to the bench and started shoving him, and they went after it. I was like, the heck is going on? But I completely agree with the Belter one. I even put in my notes, it's what we like to see. Somebody went after Byrne, go right back after him. Good to see. And then Weiss, the thing is, I think he would have gotten away with it if he put his hand down, and then when he realized that the fans were loving it, he put it back up to point at him again, and that's when the call was made. I think the original point, the refs were going to let go, but he brought it back up again, and the refs were like, all right, that's too much, and it was the correct call, and like you said, it was hilarious, and then went and did it again in the next game. So overall, I had nothing wrong with the refs either.
Yeah, it was a big game, get right game, and they did exactly what they needed to. I'm not worried about the 13-10 score. It could have been much worse if they kept the throttle on, and they held off for a good reason. So before we dive into the second of the 2 games, I'm going to buy a little time as Phil scrolls down. We're going to get into our second sponsor of the show, Tap That Tap Room.
Tap That Tap Room is at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. They are Buffalo's first women-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps that PK and I just checked out, offering a wide variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
Yeah, we're going to take the time here to thank them. They were and they continue to be fantastic sponsors for us. Phil came up with the idea to collab with them and have a BSC takeover of sorts there. So I think them being our longest running sponsor and sticking with us for 13 straight months is just a credit to what they are and what they do in the community. They're fantastic sponsors. They're fantastic people. I can't thank them enough for letting a couple idiots kind of run the show a bit. I was saying, like, my voice is hoarse from having to yell out the ticket numbers, and I'm talking to Brooke afterwards and was like, how'd I do? And she goes, well, sometimes we couldn't really hear you. And I was like, hey, Shauna said that this is a dead zone right here, that you can't hear past this line. But if you have never been, thank you to everyone that went to the BSC takeover. First off, thank you to Tap That Tap Room for letting us have it take over. But if you've never been there, I highly encourage you to go there. If you want to find out when is the best place, Bandits have 2 more road games. So go to a road game there. They're fantastic. The crowd gets into it. The sound's on all TVs. And I've said it multiple times. It's not too loud, so you can still talk to the person next to you. But it's loud enough where you can hear them if you're paying attention to the screen. All the screens are on. Everybody that's there knows it's for the Buffalo Bandits game. So I highly encourage it. We've said it multiple times. It's the far and away best place to watch a Bandits game, home or away. There's plenty of dedicated people there that know exactly what they're there for. And you don't have to wait for a bartender to address your needs. You can just grab your glass and go right up there. Just make sure you hand in those little cards at the end of the night. I almost forgot mine. I will admit, I almost completely forgot. But I was like,
you.
Yeah, you did. I was very close. I knew I had to pay. I forgot the card was in my pocket. But to find out what is coming up, because they got some great stuff coming up, I highly advise you to check out their Facebook page and to find out what's on tap and what's coming up on deck. Check out tapthattaproom.com because Phil, they have something
for everyone.
And plenty of green drinks. My pee was definitely not green this morning, but definitely thought it might be. But
PK's,
we'll move on.
Test pours are still a bit heavy.
I drank them all, though. I got them all down. We'll
did.
move on to Bandits versus Firewolves. Bandits suffer their third loss of the season. Boo-hoo. 11-10 in overtime on a back-to-back. 2 of their 3 losses have come on back-to-backs in overtime, so just throwing that out there for everybody that's saying panic time. McKay, Smith, and Frazier, 2 each. Kluch, Weiss, Byrne, and Bucky, 1 each. Vince, 44 of 55 saves. Shots were 68-55 in favor of Buffalo. Faceoffs went Albany's direction, 16-9. Both teams 1 for 4 on the power play, but this is where the change-up happened. Nanakoke and Whitty were out. Wires goes to IR. Dylan Robinson was activated and Dooley got put up to the practice squad while Clay Scanlon went down to the practice squad, so a very different lineup than the night before. They got tired legs. It was 3-2 Buffalo after 1, 6-4 Buffalo at halftime. Albany scored all 3 in the third to take the 7-6 lead. Albany scored 3 of the first 4 in the fourth, and Buffalo scored 3 of the final ones in the regular session to tie the game. Dyson wins it in overtime with 1 second left in the clock. And what's most important of note here, Buffalo is just 1-3 in games when they're trailing after 3 quarters. It's something to keep note on as we move forward.
Yeah, this game, it was fine. I really didn't have any problems with it. I mean, even though you can say like they kind of lost it toward the end, they still took Albany, who is a fresh team, on, what is it, 3-game win streak now?
Yeah.
3-game win streak after this game, and a team that is desperate to stay in the playoff hunt. They needed the win a lot more than the Bandits. Obviously, the Bandits wanted it, but Albany is literally fighting for their playoff lives. So for the Bandits to be able to hang in against a team like that, who did not have back-to-back games, who's playing their second home game in 2 weeks, and is a very young team just chilling at home waiting for this game, it's pretty impressive for the Bandits to go all the way to 7 minutes left in OT and even have the monster fourth quarter comeback that they were able to have in general. I mean, when the Firewolves went up in the third quarter by a decent amount there, I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. They're exhausted. This is going to be really tough to come back in the fourth. And yet the Bandits found a way. And that is a huge testament to the team to be able to dig deep, shut Albany down, and be able to tie that game up, head and get it to overtime. It was very, very impressive. And the shots were ridiculous for both teams. Obviously, overtime helps, but 68-55 is a lot of shots. But I think, especially toward the second half, which we'll get into, I think the shots were just kind of thrown at the net versus well-placed or really with any kind of intent other than just hope it goes in.
Yeah, the second half, Albany kind of came out blazing. They scored 6 of the first 7 in the second half, and I will give credit to Buffalo. They found the extra juice to tie that game and take it to late into overtime. So to me, I'm taking this more as a positive than more of a negative. I still have plenty of negatives to go over, but I also want to give credit to, and we say it multiple times on this show, I don't think we say it enough, but Bandits fans, as loyal and obsessive as they are, like, hands down, Banditland is an unbelievable experience, and the fans there are getting more and more knowledgeable. But if there's one thing that happens with them is after a loss, they kind of go a little nuts. And this is where I like to remind them, the other teams around the league are very, very good. The other teams got even better this year with Panther City folding, and sometimes other players on the other team steal games. And I think Doug Jamieson in the first half is one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, that Buffalo only had 6 in the first half, and why Albany came back and won this one, because it easily could have been 11-6 at halftime. It could have been 10-6 or 10-4 at halftime, 11-6 at halftime, or 11-4 at halftime. I keep saying 6. They didn't have 6. But Jamieson, 17 first quarter saves. He had 30 in the whole first half. He was making unbelievable save after unbelievable save. You had the Josh Byrne goal that was overturned. You had Frazier had 5 off-ball penalties called out, or not penalties, but illegal moves or whatever it was. The refs just kept pointing to his elbow for illegal picks or whatever it was. That went to the other side, including one in overtime when he was wide open in front of the net that could have possibly ended the game. But I think this is a lot of credit to this offense to be able to find the extra juice out there, which did help that Frazier, had the extra juice because he didn't play on Friday. But to be able to tie that game up, take it to that late in overtime on a back-to-back. So I will give Jameson a ton of credit for keeping Albany in the first half and getting them to overtime and making some good saves in overtime. But I think this was another game where the offense could have scored more if the goaltender wasn't standing on his head.
Yeah, and we mentioned it in the preview show that if there's one thing Jameson can do, it's steal a game. If he's playing lights out, he has the ability to absolutely steal a game. And this is a game where literally one goal in regulation could have been the difference in the entire game. And there were a few great chances, and the Bandits even had a lot of crossbars and posts early on that, again, a couple inches one way or another, and this game's looking a little bit different. But for them to stay in it as long as they did, be able to come back at the end, everything, like you said, it's hard to be negative. Obviously, you want to win this game, but it really did come down to Jameson. I thought the Bandits outplayed Albany, which, again, given everything going on and Albany's desperation to win in order to stay in a playoff race, I thought the Bandits being able to outplay them was really, really impressive. I know Simmons went down in the second half, which obviously helped the Bandits defense a little bit, but at the same time, the Bandits still, to me, looked like the better team the entire game. And if it wasn't for Jameson, I think they would have won this game.
Yeah, I think you can count all the times that Ian McKay just missed on Jameson. Right. Like, how many times did you
he
see...
hit a lot of posts as well.
Yes, yeah. It's just how many times did you almost see the cross pass to him to be able to dunk the goals or the crossbars, like you were mentioning. So I think this offense is right. I think all the worries that we had leading into this weekend, I think, to me, were put at ease. I don't think they're fully done, and I don't think they're fully on the back burner, but I do think we're down to a nice simmer. Like, I think we're good at that point. I'm not worried about them whatsoever. I think once this next stretch comes in, I would like to see this team at full strength because they've got Vancouver, Colorado, they got Halifax coming up, and Georgia coming up too. So 4 teams right now that are in playoff spots coming up. I would like to see how this team looks before going into the playoffs on full steam. So as long as there's no serious injuries to this team, I would like to see their best team out on the floor, their best 19 on the next game versus Vancouver at home. But that's pretty much all I got for the forwards. We can kind of switch to the defense right now.
And before we switch off the forwards, big bounce back weekend for Dane and Josh, but Josh has been
too.
And Kluch, and McKay, all of them. Josh has been fine for the most part. I don't think he's had a single game under 5 points, so he's been pretty steady compared to Dane, who had, I think, 4 straight games of just 4 points, which is very unlike him. But in this weekend against Albany, he had 6, and against Vegas, he had 7.
Oh, 7 Vegas, yes.
So between that, much, much better. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but that is, 5 points total between 2 games more than he's been averaging. So he seemed to just be a little bit better. Even his assists were up, his goals were up. Everything about Smith looked better this weekend, and Dane was ahead of him in both games. So Josh was ahead of him in both games. So Josh is fine, but McKay putting up 4 goals in 2 games. That is what we were talking about with him being on offense. He needs to be up there. Hopefully, this was one of the things we were talking about with this weekend is, would they make that official switch with with John and Matisse finally kind of settling in? And they did. And hopefully this is the lineup they use moving forward. Obviously, the double weekend, players were all over the place as far as like a true roster for their playoff, what it would look like. But having the left side, having McKay up there, him immediately going back to scoring 4 goals in 2 games, that's why he needs to be up there, and hopefully he stays up there. But again, Smith also finding a way to get right in these 2 games, looking much, much better. And I think he just needs that same thing that Cloutier needed, like you said, that confidence. And yes, they know they can do it, but when players get in ruts, you need that breakout game to snap out of it. And hopefully both of those players for the rest of the season can just kind of roll on through.
Yeah, so switch to defense and the goaltending. I mean, for Vince, this whole weekend he went up and over 11,000 saves. First one to ever do it, probably the first one, or first and last to probably ever do it. But I only had one go against him. It was the Walker one, the ninth one. Martin was slow to get to Walker, but Walker bounced off Martin somehow. Don't know how he ended up doing it. He spins off, gets to the middle, and kind of beats Vince. I think Vince wants that back. So of the 11 plus 8 goals, so what is that, 19 goals, I only had 2 that Matt Vince would want back. So I think he had a very, very good back-to-back games, back-to-back weekends. I'm not worried about him come playoffs if it is back-to-back games. Again, this coming playoffs, let's hope not, but it probably is. But for the defense overall, they had a great 5-on-3 kill. I think that was a massive kill by them. And then the only negatives I have, and it's one player in particular, it was Nick Weiss. He had a horrible end of the third quarter. They had the advantage. Again, this is what I was talking about in the first game. They had the advantage. He ends up holding, I think it was Peshko, I believe it was. Maybe it was Walker. It was probably Walker because he was on the left side. But Simmons is already down. So at that point, it's 5-on-3. And then he loses his man and gives them a great look in front of the box. And then in overtime, it was his guy, Dyson Williams, that ends up ending the game. Yes, there's like 2 seconds left in the shot clock, but play to the end of the shot clock. It's 50-50. I think I'm giving him maybe too much blame on that for losing the guy completely, but also they were putting him and Priolo and Dawson and Martin on every single shift on defense that entire overtime. Like, I know in overtime you want to go with your most trusted veterans, but off a back-to-back, you're being playing 8 minutes into overtime here. You got to give these guys a break every once in a while. Like, sprinkle it in. Okay, this shift, 2 less guys out there. Switch it up. Like, you got Ron John, you got Kyle Matisse, you got Zach Belter, who barely played any shifts that entire overtime. I'll go back and watch it a third time, but I maybe saw 1 or 2 shifts by those guys the entire time. So to me, overtime with the defense, I can only blame them so much. I think that maybe to me is the lack of experience by Anthony Cosmo coaching that team, by just like, hey, if I got to run these guys on the ground, I just don't want to get beat in overtime like that. But I think it's also, you got to back up a little bit because of the double shifting. But overall, I think they had a solid game back there. It's tough to only give up 11 goals in the NLL, let alone in overtime. I think they were able to manage Kurtz, Simmons, and Walker really well in this one. It's just, I think they got gassed out at the very end, and I put a little bit of blame on the coaching staff for that.
Yeah, and the block shots are another one. Back-to-back games, they did not really do too much, and it's something that this team's known for, and I know I harp on it probably a little bit too much, but in Game 2, it was pretty much all Dawson, and there was one from Dylan Robinson, and that was it. And the other game, I think they had... Yeah, they took a real bad... I don't blame him for not wanting to... He had a very rough first game back. Not that he played bad, but just physically rough first game back. And the block shots against Vegas, obviously, they just didn't really need it too much. So I get that one, but with an elite offense like Albany, I was expecting them to just be in the way a little bit more. It's something that this team kind of prides their defense on, and Dawson was really the only one who came away with those stats. Dooley in this game, I don't know, just didn't exist.
That could be a good thing, though. That could be a good thing.
That's true. But I think that is part of the problem with this weekend, and I don't want to give them too many excuses, and they don't really need it. They played fine. To me, again, you lost in overtime after 7 minutes, and I think the offense ran out of gas in overtime, similar to what happened against San Diego. You could tell they were just kind of whipping things at the net, hoping something would just kind of fall in, because they just were not going to the middle as much, and I don't blame them. That's a lot of lacrosse to play, and they were exhausted and just doing the best they could. And the defense and Vince gave them the opportunity to win at some point in overtime. So I'm not trying to harp too much on this team. But the rotation on the defense could have been another issue, with Wires going down as one of your best defenders, with Whitty being out in the second game, Dooley coming in. It's just a little bit of a different lineup that you're not used to against a very, very, very talented Albany offense. So to be able to hold them to only 10 is honestly very impressive to me. Like you said, I don't know. I know they lost, but I just really don't have that many negatives in a game like this, where if Jameson doesn't stand on his head, I think they win. Yeah,
I think that's another great point that you just made, where you had Dylan Robinson Taylor Dooley added to a lineup who have never played with Kyle Matisse and Ron John,
Right.
who have only played 3 games with the rest of the defense. So it was such a rotation of different players off of back-to-back. They only allowed 11 goals. Not a ton of negatives to even talk about in this one. So I think overall, I think there are some lessons to be learned. I think you're kind of hoping that Steve Dietrich comes back, and maybe we'll see what happens in overtime if they do the same thing again. I would have to go back and watch San Diego's game to see if they're running out the same guys again. That to me is just the biggest glaring issue to me in overtime was just them rotating the same 4 guys over and over and over on a back-to-back after the travel. I know, again, I don't want to harp on it again. I know you're relying on your veterans, and it's just he's normally a goaltender.
I do
coach.
think what you said about Cosmo was kind of right. Like, you don't want to risk
make
throwing a
mistake.
Dooley out there and
Yeah.
then Dooley getting burned, and that's the reason you lost. Like, that's not a good look.
Yeah, it's not even like you could have just held Dooley out, but you have a Kyle Matisse,
Right.
you have a Ron John, you have a Belter that you can rely
They
on.
have
It's
a
just
deep enough team to throw somebody else out there and
Exactly.
trust that player to do a good job.
But just to kind of clean things up, 3 times Albany won the faceoff immediately after a goal and go down there to score. The 10th goal was right after one as well. So I think this was not a great game with Farrell. It was more of a game that they were mucking it up. I didn't see too many big-time clean wins by Nardella. It's just the loose balls didn't go their way. I think I didn't really see Ron John's cross-check. I tried to look back at it. I couldn't find it. But I think all of them were good calls, even though the legal substitution that Dane Smith was really mad about. I went back and looked. He left 10 feet too early. Like, it wasn't close. But, yeah, I didn't have too many issues. It was just that in this one, for Albany, faceoffs mattered a little bit more. Right after Buffalo scored, Albany would win the faceoff, go down there and score seconds later. So it would have been nice for Connor Farrell to get 1 or 2 of those to stop that. But, I mean, credit to Albany for winning those, going down and scoring immediately to stop any momentum Buffalo had going their way.
Yeah, other than the very end of the game to get the 3, the Buffalo was only held to 2-goal runs, and that's a big deal in a game like this. And the only other thing I have, a lot of people were calling out the overtime goal for a lot of different reasons. I went back and watched it a lot. I didn't see the ball hit the net. I thought the ball hit the glass and stayed in. I didn't see that was one of the calls that people were kind of saying about. The other one with the 8-second violation, I thought the ball might have crossed the line. It was close either way. I don't think the refs. I think it was like a 50-50 call. The Albany player juggled the ball, and as he was crossing the line, probably could have gone either way, but it wasn't blatantly obvious to me. And then the shot clock, this was a thing, I think, last year that the Bandits fans, and us included, learned. The shot clock you're watching at home is not the same as the shot clock in the arena. And I think a fan mentioned it and might have shown a picture or video that somebody who went to the game said, no, it was a good goal. What you see at home is slightly delayed. So what they have at the arena, especially when it comes down to literally 0.1 seconds or 1 second, what they have in the arena is correct. What we're watching on the broadcast is slightly off. They mentioned it. I think there was a very similar situation last year. So for everybody watching at home, just remember, if it's something that's that close, it probably is a goal, and what's being shown, what they have live is different than what you are seeing on the broadcast. So everything included, that overtime goal, A, it was amazing. Congratulations, Dyson. Heck of a play. B, I think everything that people were complaining about is fine. And C, score before that, and it's not a big deal. You only lost by 1. They're fine.
Yeah, they're 11-3. They still got a 2-game lead over Saskatchewan with 4 games to go. We're good. We're fine.
Good.
I'm confident. I feel much better leaving this weekend than I did going into it. So they addressed all the issues, and they hit all the issues that I needed them to, and I'm not worried. I'm actually very excited to see how they play against the rest of the season, against 4 teams who are in playoff positions as we speak. But we'll go over our third and final sponsor of the show, the Totally Buffalo Store. Their mission is to celebrate all things Buffalo. With over 100 local artisans, they are the place to go when you need a gift for a friend, or you just need to shop around for something for yourselves. Spoil yourself. Treat yourself. They offer 3 locations, 3328 Sheridan Drive in Amherst, 3459 Amelia Drive in Orchard Park, and 467 Center Street in Lewiston. Phil, take it away.
It's getting late in the episode, and PK is losing it.
I'm on
Totally
one.
Buffalo has tea time at Totally Buffalo. This is honestly a really great sale. Every single t-shirt in the store will be 20% off Monday through Friday, March 24th through 28, all week long at all 3 locations. I did see a t-shirt that represents our show quite a bit and what we often talk about. At the beginning of the show, it was a Buffalo weather forecast. It was 72 and rainy on Saturday, 38 and thunderstorms on Sunday, 89 and sunny on Monday, 14 and snowy on Tuesday, and a question mark on Wednesday with every single weather logo in the forecast possible. With how much we talk about the weather, I absolutely loved it. But they have those t-shirts and more. You can check out their Facebook page, Instagram for more information, or head to their website at totallybuffalostore.com. Go check out the Tea Time sale all week long.
I was playing with a doc. I hope I wasn't messing with your ad right
Nope,
there.
you are all good, sir.
Okay, perfect.
Go
Because I was
talk about your
deleting some
milestones.
stuff for the milestones, and yes, so many got checked off. We won't be having a 2.5
He has a
minute
full
milestone next
page
time.
of milestones that were checked off.
It's all yellow, man. It's
all
insane.
yellow. That's what
I
we like to
deleted
see.
some of the other ones, but Dane Smith did pass John Grant for 7th place in NL history with assists. He needed 4. He got 9. Paul Dawson is now tied. He passed Mike Poulin, and he's tied with Brody Merrill for 5th with 280 games played in an NL career. Ian McKay and Nick Weiss now set new career highs. Ian McKay with points, Nick Weiss with caused turnovers. Kyle Matisse is up and over 900 loose balls for his career. Man Vince, we already mentioned it, over 11,000 saves for his career. That's a lot. Dane Smith is now passing and did pass Billy D. Smith, his cousin, for 5th place in all-time games played with the Buffalo Bandits. Chris Cloutier passed Troy Cordingley for 9th in assists for the Buffalo Bandits. He also passed Darius Kilgore for 8th in points in Buffalo Bandits history. Nick Weiss passed Andy Ogilvy for 10th place in Buffalo Bandits history in penalty minutes. Dane Smith tied exactly Pat McCready for 4th place with 17 loose balls for Buffalo Bandits history. Connor Farrell had 50 faceoffs. He had 52 and then -2 because he was in the box. He had 50. He passed Nick Weiss for 7th in Buffalo Bandits history in faceoff attempts. Dane Smith passed himself with, I think he had, 8 assists in this one? Passed himself for 5th place in a single Bandit season in assists. And Josh Byrne is up and past both Dane Smith and Sean Evans. He is in 9th place by himself in assists in a single Bandit season. So thank you, Bandits, for checking off a lot of these. We'll see how long the list is next week, but I'm assuming it's actually going to be closer to the milestone minute than the milestone 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, the NLL stats points for the entire year are coming together. Dane is off to he's on pace for a very disappointing season. For 133 points and only 100 assists, well below what we expect. So he's got it's pretty awful. He's got to step it up. He's only 2nd in the entire league in points with Josh Byrne right behind him by 1 point at 3rd in the league. So if they could both pick it up quite a bit. In first is Connor Fields with 105, and he has 1 extra game played. So we'll see. We'll try to let it go. I'm not going to, though. Pick it up. You're not doing good enough.
Yeah, it doesn't help that coming up. Let me pull it up really quick. They have a guy named Christian Del Bianco in net, followed by Dylan Ward, and then
Also all right.
Warren Hill's having a great year, and then they finish with Brett Dobson. So they're facing some pretty good goalies down
Time
the
to shine
stretch as well. But we'll go over week 17 real quick.
Wow.
Philium, let me know what the standout part of these games were for week 17. Halifax took down Ottawa 17-16. Shots 75-52 in favor of Halifax. Ottawa was 4 of 10 on the power play. Halifax was 0 of 2. And they lost. It was 5-2 Ottawa after 1, 9-7 and half. 5 straight by Halifax to start the third to take a 13-12 lead that they would not relinquish.
The shots stick out to me the most. 75 is absolutely ridiculous.
Poor Higgins.
The poor Higgins is right. He was probably having flashbacks of his Philly days. And then the 10 penalties that Ottawa was awarded, also ridiculous, especially when Halifax only got 2. Not really sure what the heck happened, but yeah, the balance was quite off. And yet, with all of that, Ottawa still lost. I mean, they weren't the ones with 75 shots. Somehow they had 10 power plays and only 45 shots, and Halifax had 2 and 75, which is absolutely ridiculous. Higgins, you did your best. You deserve better. Ottawa, we'll talk about you again in a moment.
Yeah, if Matt Vince happens to do what we're all hoping he doesn't do after the season, and Higgy wants to come back home and not have to face that many shots, there's an opening.
Yeah.
I brought it back to the off-season days. But Phil, Philly is now lost 7 in a row. They are who you and I thought they were. Back-to-back seasons.
Turns out. We were
Everybody
right
was gone for Philly once again. They traded for 3 defenders. They traded Holden Cattoni, and I guess doing that, you didn't need Shane Simpson. You need Holden Cattoni because, man, their offense stinks again. Toronto won 15-8. They were up 4-1 after 1, 8-2 at half, and 10-5 after 3. Toronto just pushed their nose in it, skips by Philly in the standings, and Philly is they're done. They're toast. It's over. You traded for 3 guys, and they're all going to walk in free agency.
Yeah, all I said with this one was the wings are officially cooked. They are done. And I don't know why you and I doubted ourselves ever. We're obviously geniuses, and where we had Philly originally is where they're going to end up. I don't know how you do this poorly, especially when you added 2 pretty dynamic players, 3 dynamic players, especially in Sanu, and then 2 of those players formerly from Toronto, losing to Toronto when your playoff hopes are on the line, 15-8. I mean, I know they probably don't care because it's a rental team to them, especially at this point when Philly's not making it, but that can't feel great.
5-2 at one point, Phil. They're 5-9. Another team that bounced back and is relevant once again are the San Diego Seals. All those people that were crucifying me for having them so high in the power rankings, this is kind of why I had them that high. It just, they hit a bit of a snag. Rubish and Baptiste were back in this one, so monster additions back. They won 16-12 over Calgary. 5-4 San Diego after 1. It was 7-7 and a half, 12-11 San Diego after 3, 4 straight by San Diego to start the 4th, kind of carried this away. And Westberg, I'm going to say it now. I think people have also been saying it. I think he's personally the front runner for MVP at this very moment.
Yeah, he is filthy.
Yeah.
He's
5
really,
of 8 shooting. Jeez.
Really, really good. 5 of 8 shooting is ridiculous. It's something I didn't bring up for the Bandits. Their shooting, even though they got a couple goals, Byrne and Josh, very, very low. Berg, 5 of 8, really, really high. Calgary in trouble after this, but San Diego looking, like you mentioned, climbing up those power rankings, looking like a very dynamic, solid team coming into the playoffs, and another team that we were yelled at for trusting at the beginning of the season, and here they are looking really good. Only 6 losses. They are climbing the standings, and honestly could be a very scary team that you don't want to face in playoffs.
Yeah, I'm going to put on my whiteboard that come week 5 and 6 next year, just stand pat and strong with our bold predictions and not
let it play out. Also, Rose coming to Calgary. This isn't a shot at him necessarily, but a huge acquisition by Calgary, and they might not make playoffs as well. Trade deadline for massive additions other than Del Bianco, which we will get into now.
Yeah, they're 1-4 in their last 5, and they face Saskatchewan, Vegas, but then Colorado to finish their season. Yeah, Calgary might be on the outside looking in, and a big reason is because Vancouver gets the win over Georgia, 15-13. Man, this offense is just fixed. All they needed was a goaltender, apparently. Makes no sense. 4-3 Vancouver after 1, 10-6 Vancouver at half. It was 13-10 after 1. And Vancouver, who couldn't score at all, has now scored 29 goals in the last 2 games after acquiring Christian Del Bianco. Make it make sense for me, man. Make it make sense.
Yeah, I think they just needed some reassurance that if they scored a lot, they would win the game. Not that their defense by any means or goaltending by any means was the issue before, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what kind of CB or CDB effect he has on the offense, but clearly he has a big one. That was going to be my big takeaway from these 2 games at Vancouver. All of a sudden, something you mentioned last week, I said like between Vancouver and I don't know who the other team was that I called out. Might have been San Diego. Which team were you scared of more heading into playoffs? You said Vancouver didn't worry you because of their offense, and here they are with back-to-back games now where their offense is starting to put it together. They're a team that looks like they could sneak into playoffs. In Georgia, I don't know. I still have no idea how to feel about Georgia ever. They're up there with Ottawa for me of teams that are just an enigma to me. I just don't know. But for this game, I think I said 7-6 in overtime, and it ended up being 15-13. Both teams found the offense that seemed to be lacking for quite a long time.
So the final game took place on Sunday. Ottawa gets the win 14-9 to keep their very slim playoff hopes alive. Dylan Ward did not play in this one. He was away for the birth of his second child. So many NLL players are having children this year, but congratulations to the whole Ward family and everybody else that is having babies. 3-2 Colorado after one. It was 5-4 Ottawa at halftime, 9-7 after three, and then they would score 4 straight to end the game. Ottawa, Jeff Teat, I believe he scored 11 goals this weekend. He's pretty good, but the biggest standout to me was Jacob Dunbar. DNP, both games. It's hurting my bold prediction for him being second on the team in scoring. Please get him back in the lineup, please.
Yeah, I thought Whittam did fine. This really wasn't too bad of a game between Ottawa and Colorado, but Colorado's offense finally hit a bit of a snag with all their injuries. They finally didn't come up with some massive, game out of nowhere. Their injury depth on offense finally showed what it
Not
should
even just
actually.
injuries. Is Kelly's gone right now with, I think, work obligations. You had Eli McLaughlin work obligations. Ed Williams is the only one really hurt.
Not in the lineup.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Their whole offense is missing, and for once it finally showed. We'll put it that way. 14-9, still not terrible, but Ottawa, like you said, keeping their slim playoff hopes alive. There are 3 teams with 7 losses and 2 teams with 8 losses, and the 3 teams with 7 losses are 6, 7, and 8 in the standing. So it's going to be a very wild finish to the season. And then a couple teams that seem to be a little bit happier up in the 6-loss range. I think Rochester's probably okay too, but the back/middle pack of standings looks wild as it did last year. Unified standings have been fantastic.
Jacob Dunbar is now 11 points behind Connor Kiernan for second place in Ottawa. Yeah, it looked good, and I don't know why he's out of the lineup, man. Like, it makes sense. Tager Clark is starting over, and it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
I mean, maybe he's going to come to Buffalo.
Maybe this is a nice transition. Maybe he was late for a team meeting like Jack Quinn was, and that's why he was scratched. I don't know. But that will conclude Week 17. 4 more weeks of the NLL, Week 18, 19, 20, and 21 before we get into the March to May of officially playing lacrosse in May, even though I always find it funny. It's the March to May, but they start the playoffs in April. It's a little confusing.
I think it's because the finals are in May.
Sure, we'll go with that. But we'll go on to another team that only has 13 games left in the season. Sabres. Thursday versus Utah, 5-2. Peterka, McLeod were goal scorers. Reimer, 27-30 saves. Shots were 31-27 favor Utah. Buffalo, 1 for 5 on the power play and 4 for 4 on the penalty kill. I'm going to talk about that one in a second. Saturday, Minnesota, 4-1 loss. Peterka was the only goal scorer. UPL, 17 of 20 saves. Shots were 21 all. And then Sunday, they wrap up the weekend road trip in Winnipeg. 5-3 win. Peterka, Dahlin, Kozak, Tuck, and McLeod were the goal scorers. Reimer played on his head and played unbelievable. 33 of 36 saves. Shots were 36-17 in favor of Winnipeg. Buffalo, 1 for 3 on the power play. They're 28, 35, and 6, 62 points, 2 points above Nashville for third worst in the NLL, or in the NHL. Pagula was at both games on the road on Saturday and Sunday, which is not normal. But let's go back to the Thursday game, Phil. They scored an own goal when they had a delayed penalty against Utah. So they were a man up. They had an empty net back there. They were trying to tie the game at 3. Tage Thompson tries to pass it to Dahlin. It goes off the board and in their own net. From the offensive end, it's unbelievable how just unbelievable things happen with this team. But the biggest thing to me that stood out this weekend is Terry Pagula was at 2 away games. The only away games he ever goes to are when they're in Florida because he lives there. So I don't know what to make of it. Like, I really don't. I don't know if this was like him sitting next to Kevin Adams, like, this is the team you're putting out there. Like, I don't even know if he's watching the hockey games, but he was stuck there watching it this time. So it is something to take note of when the Sabres season's completely done, locker room cleanout comes out. I think it's a foregone conclusion that Kevin Adams is going to be back. We talked about it on Talking Buffalo on the one that aired on Friday, but it is something of note that Terry Pegula went out of his way to go both to Minnesota and Winnipeg to watch the Sabres play hockey. Not something I would want to do.
Yeah, then they won in Winnipeg, so he's probably like, oh, team looks great. They're fine. They're going to be amazing. It's great when your backup veteran goalie is playing better than most of the team. Paterka, nice job getting up there. He's having a strong finish to his season. But, yeah, the own goal, not only was it an own goal from the offensive zone on a delayed penalty, but with that situation, which I think it was Rob Ray was yelling and got very, very frustrated of just, like, why are you not letting Utah touch the puck so you get the delayed penalty? Yeah. Why you, like, just let them touch the puck and start the 5-on-3, and instead they just kept playing with the puck and then eventually scored, and it was funny to hear him get very, very upset on the broadcast. The team's a joke, but, yeah, I don't know what to make either of Pegula going. Maybe he was on a West Coast trip for business for some reason or wanted to visit something out there, and I was like, oh, well, I'm in town. I'll check it out. I mean, Minnesota's not West Coast at all, but I don't know. But like you said, I think everyone's going to be back, and the Sabres are going to be back to being terrible again next year, so that should be a good time.
Yeah, 13 games to go. Tuesday, Ottawa comes to town. Dylan Cousins. It's been a long, long week, Phil. 5 recordings. Tap That Tap Room Takeover. Is there anything else with this episode? We got it down to like less than an hour 10, which is pretty impressive considering 2 games and 3 Sabres games. So anything else before we shut it down and get ready for Buffalo Bandits versus Vancouver Warriors?
Excited to have CBD in town. Talk about that later. And my back hurts from trying to sit up on a couch, so I'm good.
So we'll end it. We got our interview series coming up on Wednesday. We're talking to Brad Challoner, one of the play-by-play men for Vancouver Warriors. He will be talking to us about their season so far and kind of their offensive come-alive party the last 2 games and if they're going to be able to do that versus the Buffalo Bandits. But we will be back Wednesday to talk to Brad Challoner and then Friday for our regular preview episode with just 4 games left in the regular season for the NLL. The countdown begins, Phil, to our off-season break time. I'm excited for that for sure. But this will conclude this episode. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room, Totally Buffalo Store, and Phrase Flowers for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's long articles coming out on Tuesday. My article will be back out on Thursday. Check out our store on our link tree, on our socials, or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave that review on Apple and Spotify. Till next time, bye-bye.